Hello, everyone. We're beginning the orientation to state tax credits today. I have a presentation which I will share with you. We have some housekeeping items to begin with, and we will start with the housekeeping items now. Okay, I need to advance that. There we are. Okay. The presentation notes, due to the limited time and the number of participants, there won't be any live interaction with participants. Use the question and answer feature to ask questions during the presentation. Answers will be provided in real time. Similar questions will be referred to answers above. We may have time to answer verbally complex questions. We're just going to play that by ear. Some logistical notes for January 6th submission. Initial applications must be emailed to couchbo.tax.parks.ca.gov after 8 a.m. without any tax ID or SSN numbers on this. It's not how the program works, like when we're in the middle of the program, but because of the queue order involved, it's important to capture that order. Once we have received your applications and we rank them in queue order, we will create folders for you on the secure SharePoint, and you'll be invited to refile your applications with the tax ID. This will keep the tax ID secure and keep our queue order. For federal completed projects between January 1st, 22 and the present, submit a completed project application only with all the statistical information filled and the entire fee as calculated using the final QRE amount. Submit the QRE documentation using a certified tax accountant as per the regulations. So dual project orientation. This is mostly the only slide that's going to apply to projects that are applying for both federal and state tax credits because it's the exact same process as the federal program. The only difference is you need to submit an initial application and a completed application. Federal projects do not file state amendment forms. That is only for homeowners. And no narrative forms because we use the federal narrative form. It's just the application and the fee. So for the homeowner, we're going to be reviewing the qualifications, the listing on the California Register, qualified rehabilitation costs, filling out the forms, required documents and formats, application approval and transmission to CTCAC, and how CTCAC will interact with the applicant. So for qualifications, taxpayer income cannot exceed $200,000. The property must be listed on the California Register. Owners must occupy rehabilitated projects once complete or within 2 years of completion. The project must begin within 365 days from the allocation award. It must be a single project, not an aggregate of past and present projects. And the owner qualifies for another tax credit 10 years after the last allocation was awarded. So the recommendation would be to collect several maintenance repair projects totaling between $20,000 and $125,000 or more to maximize the use of the credit. This is a good opportunity for homeowners to do energy upgrades and updating infrastructure. It's really good to be used as that. Okay, I want to emphasize the 365 days to begin. The project must have started within 365 days for all projects, including federal projects. Notify OHP when the project starts. You can send documentation like a signed contractor's contract, a building permit, a contract work order, or receipts related to the project. And we will be keeping track of the start date. And if we haven't received one, we will be sending reminders to outstanding projects beginning 345 days after allocation award. So, listing on the California Register. Check to confirm if the property is individually listed in the California Register or is a contributor to a listed historic district or a certified district. We do have county lists on our website where you can go to the county and download the Excel spreadsheet and look to see if your property is there. There's a whole row of code um, that you can check. And I'm not going to go into those details, but we have it described in our instructions. Um, if you can't do that, then contact Calshbo Tax at Parks using the subject line "See our listing status request" for your property address. Um, you can request that our staff look it up for you. So you just want to provide the full name of the correspondent, the historic name of the building, the year the building was built. Don't send photos. The OHP staff can only confirm if the property is listed in the California Register or not. If the property is not listed, the staff will send information to nominate the property for the California Register, and that procedure is the next slide, actually. Staff cannot determine eligibility of a property by email. So we're only going to be able to confirm if it's on the California Register or how to become listed if you're not. And we'll try and reply within 5 days of your email request. So if a property is not listed on the California Register, this is a summary of what's on the California Registration Unit webpage on how to become nominated on the California Register. And it's a complex process. It's at one point, there's a 90-day review from the city. So that's going to take a lot of time. It's a very long process. But that's what has to be done to become registered on the California Register. You cannot apply without being listed on the California Register. Quickly, there could be a workaround for that. It also takes a while, but the National Park Service has a certified historic district that the mayor of a city can request. And it can include contributors to that certified district. The paperwork is put in by the mayor or, the city manager, and NPA processes that application. And when it becomes a certified district, that's a federal action, and all the contributors to that district are automatically listed on the California Register. So that's one way for a city to have a number of properties become eligible for the tax credit. A little bit about qualified rehabilitation expenditures. There is an article from the IRS on our website. It's 4 pages long and very complete. I would recommend everybody review that. But basically, qualified rehabilitation expenditures is a technical term by the IRS. There are costs that may include expenditures in connection with the rehabilitation of a building incurred by the taxpayer for the rehabilitation of the exterior and interior of a building, or rehabilitation necessary for the functioning of the building, including but not limited to electrical, plumbing, and foundation. Soft costs like architects and design consultants qualify for expenses, and examples of expenses that are not associated with building rehabilitation include, but not limited to, additions, new construction, landscaping, furniture, and small appliances. The article on our website goes into more detail on what is not included. Um, So filling out the forms. I'm not going to go through all the forms, and you just follow the instructions. But I do want to point out there's a couple of important things that have to be filled out for us to be able to process them. And it's kind of common sometimes for, the federal applicants to miss these things too. So we need to have an affidavit from the owner that they are either the owner of the property or the owner has no objection, and you will include a letter from the owner explaining that he's aware of the project that the tenant is proposing. Those are two check boxes. One of them has to be checked. And there's a little caveat at the bottom that says, don't lie, it's a California felony. Uh, then you complete the application. Um, there's an arrow here for the tax ID and the social security number. Initially, when people apply using our email tax address, that is not going to be filled in. Once you have been contacted and the link to your secure folder has been shared, you will refile this application with that information included. And that's how we'll keep that information secure. This is what a narrative form looks like. Federal tax credit people are familiar with this format, although they will not be using this form. This is for homeowners. And a reasonable facsimile of this form can be created by the homeowner. It doesn't have to be this form. But basically, I think I've got another slide that shows how to fill it out. Uh, Zooming in, these are numbered sequentially. So you just print as many of these as you need, or it's actually a fillable PDF form. So you just keep creating these forms. Change the number in the box sequentially. For the feature, you're going to go methodically and describe the project. You don't have to describe the whole house if you're just doing a part of a part of the house or an infrastructure thing. But the project that's the subject of the tax credit needs to be completely described. Photos need to be taken of what it looks like before, and you will be submitting photos of the completed project with the completed application. So first, you'll describe the feature that you're working on. You'll describe what it's like, what it looks like, its condition. In the second box, you'll describe what it is the project is doing to impact that. Electrical systems should not have any impact on interior room molding. So your historic features will most likely not be impacted. If you are reconfiguring rooms, that is going to be a feature that will be impacted, and you will want to describe that. And there will be further technical help on that for homeowners. Here is the amendment form for the homeowner. I don't anticipate that homeowners will be submitting this much. Again, we're just mirroring the federal format. If the homeowner in mid-project has an issue, something is preventing the project from completion, or the project has to change, we would need to know that, and this is how you would tell us what needs to change. So you would download this form, fill it out. In the blank space, you'd just describe what it is that's changing and why it has to change, and submit that to us for our review. And, we will review it. We will get back to you as to whether we think that whatever's changing is fine or not. This is a snapshot of the completed project form. Again, you will just be following the instructions to fill it out. Uh, you want to make sure it's completely filled out. What's very important for everyone, to the best of their ability, is to fill out the statistics because the legislation requires the collection of statistics. And for this program to continue, they want to see that it's a good impact on the economy. The last page was provided by CTCAC. It's a format to list the project costs and to break it out into qualified residential costs or just regular costs that would not um, be qualified to receive a tax credit. The tax credit is based on 20 or 25% of the total of qualified residence costs. So, okay, additional documents and formats. The homeowner is going to, in addition to submitting the application, we're going to need photos, before photos of the project, and any descriptive drawings of what the project is. Now, not all projects will need floor plans or anything like that. It doesn't have to be formal. You don't need to hire an architect necessarily to do it. What you need to do is to make sure that you communicate uh, what it is you intend to do. Uh, and for homeowners as well, there's the ability to submit all the drawings, applications, and photos in hard copy if you need to. If you don't have access to PDFs and to email, we can accept projects in hard copy. This is just an elaboration of the photo key. It's an example of a photo key. You've got a floor plan, you've got boxes with photo numbers, you have arrows pointing to the direction the photo was taken. You can also submit JPEG photo formats. The requirements for JPEG photo submittals are in the instructions. I've copied them here. We prefer to have full photos in a PDF format. This is the format that the NPS requires. It's 2 pictures per page with a description of the photo and the photo number below. So we'd appreciate that. It can be 1 photo per page, but it shouldn't be more than 2 photos per page. And drawings, you can have an architect do them, you can do them yourself, as long as they're legible and explain what it is you want to do. Submitting your application. You're going to email calshbo.tax and request uh, a secure folder. If you don't have one already, the link to your secure folder is good for the entire time of the project. So you can always use that. Or if you lose it, you can request another link. So you email us with the subject line request link, property street address, city and county. Later requests can say, request for state project number. You'll be assigned a state project number, and then we'll know exactly which project this email applies to. So here's an example. Uh, the staff will provide that secure folder and send you a link. And this will be what the link looks like. It'll have the assigned state project number and the name of the building or the address. The applicant, in turn, completes all of their documentation and turns it into PDFs. And the PDF name format, the file format for these PDFs is shown here. You start with the OHP state project number. Section 2 is what all initial projects are. Your narrative file will say narrative. Your application file will just say the name of the building If you want to add application, it won't throw us. Um, the plans, you'll just label plans and then the name of the project. And what you can expect back from us will be our forms that will be labeled state review sheet. And this is Appendix B of the instructions. All this information is on there in the instructions. So when you're done naming your files, you put them in a folder that you've prepared. Name the folder with the OHP number and the initial project and the name of the building, and you upload it to the link that you were given. Application approval and transmission to CTCAC. When we are done with the review, the applicant is copied and notified of the review action, whether it's approved or approved with conditions, or it needs more work. If it needs more work, it will not be forwarded to CTCAC. We will be working with you more to make it approvable. But then once it's approved, we notify you that it's approved. We send a copy of the approved application to you. There's a space on the application form reserved for us where we will sign off on it. There's a place on the second page for CTCAC to sign off on it. So we will then send CTCAC the application that we sent you. And in our correspondence to you at that time, we will request that you send the initial fee to CTCAC because we're forwarding that information to them. So you should promptly mail the check to CTCAC. The address is in the instructions. When CTC gets it, they should be confirming that they've got it, first of all, and maybe remind you of the fee if that's necessary. And the next slide kind of tells where it goes from there. Okay, so CTCAC and the applicant, this is your interaction with CTCAC. So they review the applicant qualifications and confirm the credit amount. CTC forwards the applications in order of receipt from us. So the queue order for allocations is completed and approved OHP applications. So the queue order really starts for allocations when projects are approved. We will review them in the order we receive them, but they get approved in the order CTCAC receives them. So it behooves everyone to submit complete, perfect applications the first time. The committee, they send it to the committee for referral. The committee meets throughout the year, so their approval notification time will vary. Then CTCAC transmits the authorized form to the applicant for your confirmation and record and copies us. And we note that time because that's when your 365 days begins. That completes the orientation. It's a general orientation. So if you have questions, there is a question and answer box. And have we been receiving applications?
Questions?
Before I do that, I'm going to go back to CTCAC and the applicant. We have CTCAC representatives here with us. It's Ricky Hammett and Anthony Zito. I'm sorry, I should have introduced them in the beginning. But do Ricky or Anthony have anything to add to that?
No, I think Mark, I think you did, you explained it. But we're available for questions. If anybody has any questions, they can just pop them in the chat and we can answer them.
Okay, if you two could just please stay there, that'd be great. I'm going to go back to here. And then I might just return to stop sharing. Okay, what are we seeing? Are we seeing this box with everybody? Okay.
There are questions. A big question is if city properties can apply and what that process looks like.
The question is, can city properties apply and what that looks like? The state tax credit is different from the federal tax credit in that they have lifted the restriction that the federal people have on nonprofit organizations and jurisdictions like cities. Um, I can't explain exactly how that, um, it's probably just a straight application. And
Thank you.
it'll only be a state application because it still won't qualify for a federal application. Now, nonprofits and cities do qualify for federal applications if they go through a tax entity, an entity that pays taxes, an LLC or something like that. So that's been done for federal um, projects before. But for the state credit, no LLC should be needed. So you would just apply as per the instructions.
They're asking if you can go over dual projects again.
Uh, yes, this is big. The project is going over dual projects again. Um, it's probably unnecessarily confusing. Dual projects is the word we give to projects that are both federal and state. Okay, it does not involve the homeowner. The homeowner cannot apply for federal credits. Um, it's just our way of referring to projects that are applying for both. And in the case of dual projects, uh, what is followed is just the federal format. Nothing additional is needed to apply for the state tax credit other than the application and the fee. So there is no additional documents to submit, nothing like that. It's a straight federal process. And I hope that clears it up. Maybe we should just refer to federal and state projects if the dual project is confusing people. But it's uh, just the name we use for both. Are you able to answer some of these questions by typing? Okay, I'm sorry. We have we have Amy here assisting. She's assisting with the questions. Yeah, we can't call on people. Please ask your question in the question and answer. If we do not get to your question, you can send your question to the calshbo.tax.parks website, and you can ask your question there, and it will be returned with an answer. I'm not seeing the question and answer
It's all
panel.
in the chat.
It's all on the chat? Since I now see the questions, I'm just gonna read them in order. And okay, any questions regarding specific properties that are you're asking if they're eligible or not? We can't answer those questions. Um, Here's one. I work for a nonprofit organization that has a historic building that needs to be in compliance with non-dial duct concrete mandated by the city of LA. Do you qualify? The answer is yes. As a nonprofit, you do. Foundation work and earthquake remediation would qualify for the tax credit. Um, okay, another question about a specific property. If a property is on the National Register, is it automatically listed on the California Register? It is, but sometimes people think they're on the National Register when they're really just on a local register. You need to pay attention about exactly which list or register that you're on, because there are several. Okay. An earlier slide said that owner must occupy rehabilitated projects once complete or within 2 years of completion. Their project is a vacation cabin that we own that has been landmarked as historic. We do not reside there permanently, but we occupy it regularly. The answer is no. Residences that aren't continuously permanently occupied as the home of the homeowner don't qualify for tax credit. Okay, good question. Is the total California allocation 50 million? Is that inclusive of the homeowner and development projects? How does a developer pair adaptive reuse federal funds with the state funds? Some states contribute as much as adaptive reuse historic rehab tax credits at similar basis to federal funds. It seems California allocations are tiny by comparison. Yes, that's why statistics are important. We're going to be collecting the performance of the first year, possibly the second year for the legislature. They're going to see how that this program positively impacts the environment. It's going to demonstrate that the need is greater than the allocations. And so hopefully they will be increasing those amounts. The total allocation is 50 million. It's broken down into 2 million for homeowners, 8 million for projects under $1 million, and then the rest, $40 million, are for projects over $1 million. And as people have been observing, the under $1 million and over $1 million projects are going to go fast because projects that have been completed between January 22 and now qualify. They'll be applying and that will use up a lot of, if not all of the credit. The only thing in that case is to appeal to the legislature to say, well, we're out of money, the demand is high. And then it's up to them to legislate more money. It doesn't do any good to talk to us about money. It's got to be through the legislature. The good news is that the money is not expected to run out for homeowners because the project tax credit cap is $25,000 and there's $2 million in that account. If there's any money left over at the end of the calendar year, it rolls over into the next year's budget allocation. The next question was a maximum amount for the credit. For homeowners, it's $25,000. And I also want to say which represents a project of $125,000. $25,000 is 20% of $125,000. The project can cost more, but you're only going to receive a maximum of $25,000 in credit. The minimum credit is $5,000, which represents a project of $20,000. 25, 5 times 25 is 100, no, 5 times 5, $25,000. It's a project of $25,000. If your home project is under $25,000, it does not qualify for tax credits because you don't meet the minimum tax credit amount. That's why the recommendation is to aggregate different maintenance projects and repairs and create a project that is over $25,000. That is a project that will qualify. It's a good next question. What if there are different projects that are completed consecutively or over time, electrical foundation, sewer, all completed with 360 days of approval? Really, the key here is that everything has to be part of the same project. Do not create different projects for different repairs. You want to aggregate all the projects into a project that's over $25,000. And yes, you can do all kinds of different things within that project. You can even do things that, don't qualify for credits if they just need to be done. You just wouldn't report them on the completed application form. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, someone asked if a 501c3 organization can apply. And as a nonprofit, yes, they can apply for state tax credit. Okay, here's what's the procedure for a dual project with an approved Part 2 application but which has not completed construction? The answer to that is you just submit an initial application form and the fee. And then when you're completed, you will supply the completed application form and the rest of the fee. Every federal project that's in process, will qualify for the state tax credit. How often is the program available? This program is, it's a continuous application process. There are no, target dates everyone has to apply at the same time. It's a rolling application process. Its budget is allocated on a calendar year. So we accept applications until that category's dollar amount is depleted. So if previous projects in the queue have, just exhausted the potential account, we can't accept any more applications. And what happens in that case is we keep track of where the allocation amount is. When we see that it is depleted, we announce that we're stopping to take applications for this year for that category. And any projects that we have that have paid fees, we return the fee. Someone asked to clarify, a historically listed mixed-use building may qualify even if the owner does not live there. If it is an income-producing property, then no, the owner doesn't need to live there, and the project may qualify for federal tax credits as an income-producing property. So there's that. But if this is a homeowner project, and the owner doesn't live there, it does not qualify for tax credits. Can a resource that is only locally listed be eligible for the state tax credit? It can be eligible, but again, it can't apply for a tax credit until it's listed. And the procedure for that we went over, and it's also found on the registration unit's website. Here's a question for Anthony or Ricky. Are these credits considered allocated or certificated?
We we have to look into that a little bit more because there's cross references to those sections, and we just want to make sure before giving out a response. So I could send you the person asking the question. I could send you our contact information. We can look into that.
Okay, I think we've captured that information. I don't know the difference between an allocation or a certificated amount. Is that in reference to something specific?
Well, in our low income housing tax credit program, the certificated allows for them to get more bang for their buck, I guess, if you will. Whereas like the allocating, they go out and go market the credit, and the person getting the credit takes advantage of the benefit versus selling it to an investor who gets the benefit. It kind of cuts out. It ultimately provides more equity, I guess, if you will. But it's kind of a little complicated. We have an explanation on our website, but it's a little complicated.
Okay, you'll be clarifying that. Okay. So someone asked if a project is applying for federal and state tax credits and it has an in-process part one, a pending part one, which will not be resolved before January, would the property owner need to wait until the part one is approved to apply for the state credit? And the answer to that is yes. An approved part one, approved by the NPS, lists the property on the California Register and not before. So, when it's approved, the owner gets notified, we get notified, and at that point, the owner can apply for a state tax credit. Can we speak to California tax credits for commercial and income producing properties? Yes, that would be logically, that would be a federal tax credit that you would want to apply for, and then you're automatically qualified for the state tax credit. So, don't miss out on the one credit if it's a commercial property or income producing property, because that property would be available for both credits. Okay, here's a question that maybe needs to be asked for clarity. This is a question for Anthony. Can projects which have recently received a 9% allocation, round 2 of 2024, apply for a state historic credit allocation as long as they make the readiness deadline? You're muted.
Is the question, was that sent in on here?
Uh, let's see. It's about the minute at 12:28 p.m. It was sent.
Yeah, I don't think and Mark, can you remind me, like, if they didn't start construction, what was the date again that we had that cut off? Like, because obviously this one hasn't started construction, so we were trying to avoid projects that were already feasible. Because I think this project, you guys were feasible when you applied. So is this a case that you need additional financing, I guess? But I don't see anything prohibiting it. Let's see.
This is almost like an independent thing, right? I mean, they're doing their thing with low income. For
Yeah.
the state tax credit, they need to be listed on the California Register. We need an initial application if they're still in process, describing the project. If the project has not begun within a year, then their allocations are in jeopardy. And I don't know how that would impact anything with their low income program.
Well, when they mentioned that's when they would start construction. So, and most likely, I don't know how recent this award is, so I think I need a little bit more information on the project. So maybe you could, but like I said, I don't think there's a prohibition, but so I think if you could send me the details, we can address that.
Um,
Whoever's
well,
asking the question, I guess.
okay, well, the 365 days starts from when the state tax credit is allocated. So they haven't exceeded a 365-day threshold yet. If they're in construction, that's fine too.
Yeah, they would most likely be in construction is what I'm saying. When they got their, when they would get this historic tax credit, the state historic tax credit, so.
Okay, all right. I think that's answered. Um, we are a nonprofit. Will the tax credit be available to individuals who contribute donations to repair our historic building? The answer is no, they won't be. Would upgrading solar on a house that is outdated, less efficient, be a type of energy mitigation improvement that the credit would cover? Um, you know, that's an answer that's been answered in our frequently asked questions. I can't recall the answer to that. I think um, it doesn't qualify under federal tax credits. Um, and I guess it would just be um, my feeling is that it would be. Um, so I would stay tuned with the frequently asked questions and the website to be sure for that. Can we apply for state tax credits if the project has been completed? Such as a project that received a certification of completion part 3. If that certification of completion part 3 was received between January 1st, 2022 and now, yes, it's qualified. Is this tax credit against property tax or income tax? This is an income tax credit, so it would be your state income tax, and for the federal, it would be their federal income tax. Does a commercial building in the historic district of Mendocino qualify? It would qualify, but again, it needs to be listed in the California Register to apply if it contributes to that district. Is this applicable to commercial property? Can it be stacked with federal historic credits? So in theory, 40% could be recouped. The answer is yes. It does apply to commercial property. It would be in the category of projects under $1 million or over $1 million. So that would be the category, one of the categories to apply in. Oh, okay. We have an error message on our web page. We will fix that.
No, the website's working.
Okay, we'll look into that. Uh, is it true there is no cap on a project? For example, that a possible for a 100 million or more qualified historic rehabilitation cost project to apply? You answered that. Okay, that's been answered. And the answer is there is no cap. I live in a historic corridor in downtown Los Angeles. The property was partially burned and I am trying to restore it to look as close to the original state as possible. Does this apply? That is a tricky question. It really depends on whether it's on the California Register or not, and if it's not, if what's left can be listed on the California Register. So that's really a question of is it listed or is it listable? And then once it's listed, it can be a project. It's an interesting question. What are the drivers that will lead to increases in allocation funding in the future? Did you say the next review cycle for the performance is in 2 years? No, there's no review cycle. There's no application cycle. It's submit when ready. The drivers would be that to have more allocations budgeted and to have larger allocations budgeted, California taxpayers would want to contact their legislators and talk to them about that. I understand the city government projects are eligible, but does the funding source matter? Would a city lead grant funded rehabilitation project at a city-owned property that is listed and the National Register be eligible? If so, what is the benefit? Uh, well, the funding source matters um, if you're receiving money from a federal source or a state source. They would come under separate reviews, Section 106 review for federal money and uh, Public Resource Code 5024.5 for state money. So it would make a difference that way. Um, Otherwise, the source of funding doesn't matter. We just need to know that you're eligible, that it's listed on the California Register. What's the cap on non-residential? It's 20% or 25% of the qualified rehabilitation expenses. So there is no cap. Can these tax credits be traded from a 501c3 for a non-residential rehab project to a third party? Not exactly clear what that's asking. The 501c3 is eligible for the state tax credit. Uh, and a non-residential rehab project, if it's historic, would also qualify. I'm not sure what the third party means. If it's an investor, that's a part of the California state tax law. Okay, does this tax credit program have any limitations on a 501c3 organization recipient receiving other funding, grants from other government agencies or private foundations for a qualified rehab project that receives these state of California tax credits? Again, the source of the funding doesn't matter. What matters is it's a project that is listed on the California Register, and the project would meet the standards. A lot of questions about 501c3s and whether they can take the state tax credits. And the answer is yes, they can. Okay, question is, how does a nonprofit benefit from the state tax credit since nonprofits owe no taxes? Meaning, is this a cash payment made by the state to the charity in an amount equal to the tax credit, a refundable credit? That is really a question for a tax accountant or tax attorney. I know that nonprofits are eligible. I don't know how they can use the tax credit. So that is a question for a tax attorney. Does this apply to projects started before the historic district and contributor property has been listed? uh, projects that are contributing to a historic district, if the historic district is listed in the California Register and the property is listed in that district as a contributor, it qualifies. If it's before listing in the California Register, it doesn't qualify. Given that the income producing credits are likely all be used up immediately, does this mean that the applications really have to arrive at exactly 8 a.m. on the day to get the credit? Uh, Good question. Each email after 8 a.m. is going to be date stamped. We will be creating the queue order based on the timestamp of those emails. And ones that come at the same time, we'll just be applying an order to that. They don't have to arrive exactly at 8 a.m. No. We're going to be creating a list of applications. We're going to be checking the allocation amounts. We're not going to be not denying, but refunding fees for projects that we have when the allocations run out. Immediately, we're going to wait 1 month and see what's being approved and what that allocation amount looks like. And if it's all completed projects we get initially, yeah, that's going to be depleted rather quickly, and we'll know that. And the answer to that is everyone else will just need to reapply next year. It's frustrating, I know, but if you are eligible for this credit, you will eventually get a tax credit. It just depends on the amount of money that's available to allocate. And it's purely that. So if it's not this year, it will be next year. Okay, if a project is listed on the National Historic Register and has received its approved Part 3 from the NPS, is the project then automatically listed on the California Historic Registry? The project is on the California Register when the approved Part 1 is done. So when you receive an approved Part 3, uh, you've been allocated provisional federal tax credit. What the IRS requires after that is a separate action where the owner has to uh, nominate and get listed in the National Register. That is a totally separate function. And if that's not done within 30 months of receiving the Part 3 application, the tax credit is subject to forfeiture. So it's not automatically listed on the National Register when you get the Part 3. That's a separate action. Uh, There's not understanding of the NRHP versus CAHP requirements. Can you clarify which California list a project must be listed on? Um, the only qualification for a state tax credit is that it be listed on the California Register. Um, if it's a national register historic whatever, it was probably likely on the California Register, but the defining criteria is whether or not it's listed on the California Register. In the case of mixed-use developments exceeding $1 million, if the tax credit allocation exceeds the available annual tax credits available with the award, roll over to the subsequent years. No. This is asking if a project gets the rest of its tax credit with the following year's allocations. And the answer is that project wouldn't qualify for tax credits that year because it exceeds what's left in the calendar year's allocation. So they would be required to apply for the following year. Uh, One thing I want to mention, if it's not already generally known, is that the sunset date for this program was changed to January 1st, 2027. That was enacted in legislation back in 2021. So there's another year for this. But again, the ruling uh, uh, example would be the money. If the money's not there, then it doesn't matter how much of the time you have left to apply. Is the fee due at 8 a.m. on January 6th too? We will be processing all applications we receive by email on January 6th. Because we require checks to be mailed to us, we will just be looking for fees in the immediate future. If we have a project which we have in the queue, and after like 3 weeks, we're not receiving a fee, you'll get a reminder. But regardless, review of a tax credit does not begin until the fee is received. So it really behooves everyone to get those checks in soonest. If you apply in 2025 and funds are already taken by other projects, um, would you need to reapply in 2026 or would you already be in the queue? You would need to reapply, is the answer to that. And I happened to look at the time and we are over. So if your question has not been answered, then please write us an email with your question and we will be answering them in the following days. Thank you all for your time. I hope this has been informative and let us know what you need in the meantime using our email tax credit.
I'll put the email.
Okay, and the email is being posted right now. It's calshbo.tax@parks.ca.gov. Okay, it's been posted. Take a quick look at it. Thank you all for attending. There will be this presentation again next Tuesday between 5 and 6 p.m. Thanks for attending.